The Pre-Raphaelites, presentation by me, Aurora Davis. So in this first slide, I will be speaking about historical context. Pre-Raphaelites find their roots in Romanticism. The Pre-Raphaelite movement grew out of several principal developments tied to Romanticism in early 19th century in Britain. One of them was a reaction to industrialization, making Britain by far the most technologically and mechanically advanced nation by the 1830s. In this time, the government regulation had failed to keep up with these rapid changes, and so Romantic critics sought ways to expose such changes and try to make the situation better. During this time, the Italian High Renaissance held a favored place in the British art world, especially within the conservative Royal Academy, which was founded in 1768. Next, we have who. So the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, also known as Pre-Raphaelites, was a group of Victorian English painters, poets, and art critics founded by William Holman Hunt and many others on the screen. They were all under the age of 25 years old. It was founded in 1848, and although the Brotherhood lasted only about 5 years, its influence on art in Britain was very profound and lasted throughout the years and even today. As for the location, it was founded in John Millais' parents' house in London. In this slide, I will be talking about how they came about. The Pre-Raphaelites defined themselves as a reform movement, and they were banded together in reaction against what they conceived to be an unimaginative and artificial historical painting of the Royal Academy. An interesting fact is that 3 of them were originally enrolled into this academy. This next slide regards what the Pre-Raphaelites were about. They had created a distinct name for their movement, which was connected to their aim. They sought to express a new moral seriousness and sincerity in their works, which meant abundance of detail, intense colors, complex compositions, and they were inspired by Italian art of the 14th and 15th centuries, and their adoption of the name Pre-Raphaelite expressed their admiration for what they saw as the direct and uncomplicated depiction of nature, which was typical of Italian painting before the High Renaissance, and particularly before the time of Raphael. At times, their aims were vague and contradictory, which was expected because they were very young. Again, they were all under 25 years old, and so their movement was made of strong-minded individuals who sought to modernize art by reviving the practices of the Middle Ages, but often they found themselves poised between nostalgia for the past and excitement about the future. In this next slide, I will be talking about the Brotherhood's doctrines, which were to have genuine ideas to express, to study nature attentively so as to know how to express them, to sympathize with what is direct and serious and heartfelt in previous art, to the exclusion of what is conventional and self-parading and learned by rote, and to produce thoroughly good pictures and statues. I will now be diving into what were their literary works and their art. So they published a periodical called The Germ to promote their ideas. The Pre-Raphaelite passion for modern writing was reflected in this journal, and it contained not only pictures but also reviews, essays, and original poetry, and literature was definitely as important as their art to them. Several Pre-Raphaelite artists were prolific poets and writers. In particular, Dante Gabriel Rossetti frequently wrote sonnets to accompany his paintings, which he had inscribed on the frame, including the famous Lady Lilith from 1868, which is in the picture. In the next couple of slides, I will be exploring the characteristics of their works. So they were interested in the beauty and sound of language. Pre-Raphaelite verse experimented with forms such as the ballad, lyric, and dramatic monologue. The germ only survived for 4 issues, but this experimental periodical is an important forerunner for the modernist little magazine. Its eagerness to explore the interactions between words and images set a precedent for subsequent high-profile pre-Raphaelite projects. Their paintings are often inspired by subjects from the Bible. In fact, their works have really strong religious influence, and the Christian themes are very abundant in their works. But there are also medieval romances, Arthurian legends, Ovid, culture, contemporary poetry, and Shakespeare influences as well. Drawing inspiration from visual art and literature, their work privileged atmosphere and mood over narrative, focusing on medieval subjects, artistic introspection, female beauty, sexual yearning, and altered states of consciousness. Pre-Raphaelite work incorporated elements of 19th century realism in its attention to detail and in its close observation of the natural world. Their work was characterized by flattened perspective, sharp outlines, bright colors, and close attention to detail that flouted classical conventions of symmetry, proportion, and carefully controlled chiaroscuro. Some final thoughts and considerations. Though the extraordinary amount of negative criticism they attracted and still attract, it is important to remember that the pre-Raphaelites were not only dreamers, but also innovators. Because they were united in their refusal to recognize boundaries between literature and fine art, and they were insistent on experimenting with material, form, and technique. And their irrepressible and respectable spirit in an age that prized conformity. Thank you for watching.